So many of the high achievers that I work with are amazing at doing well when it comes to work, but they struggle when it comes to creating and sticking to healthy habits for themselves. It becomes oh so easy to relegate these habits to the back burner and to feel frustrated when you feel motivated for one week and then lose that spark the next. In this episode, we'll be talking about why that happens and how to stick with your healthy habits. This is episode number 120, how to actually stick with your healthy habits. Welcome to Calmly Coping. My name is Tati Garcia, and I'm a licensed therapist and coach specializing in high-functioning anxiety. I help high achievers overcome anxiety, stress, and overwhelm so they can feel calm, balanced, and confident from within. Thank you so much for tuning in. So what actually happens? Why is it so hard to stick with your healthy habits? What are healthy habits? Well, maybe you have an idea, but let's just talk about it just so we're on the same page. So most people intuitively know this, but healthy habits are the things that help you to care for yourself, to care for your health and your well-being. So it might look different for every person, but I think there's some general ideas of what this is. Some examples include exercising, meditation, eating healthy, journaling, taking breaks, going for walks, spending time with friends and family, getting enough sleep at night, recharging, whatever that looks like for you, reading, having fun, getting outside. It could go on and on. So it's really things that allow you to care for yourself, your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. These are the things that metaphorically fill up your cup so that you can feel better, so you can feel more energized, more confident, more physically able, calmer, have better emotion regulation skills, all of that good stuff. So here's the cycle that I see when it comes to people who are struggling with maintaining their healthy habits. And P.S., this totally used to be me. And honestly, it still is sometimes, depending on the habit. But first, it's motivation for the short term. So maybe for like 2 to 3 days, a week, maybe a few months, you're like, yes, I'm super excited to do this. I'm all about this. Let's get started, whatever. But then it stops, slows down, and you go back to your old ways. The opposite of healthy habits and what these old ways might be are avoidance. So things like not taking care of yourself, neglecting that self-care that you need. Maybe it's distracting yourself by overworking or numbing yourself by binge eating or binge watching TV or drinking alcohol or taking drugs. Maybe it is through always staying busy, not taking time to relax. So a lot of these kind of overdoing it are the things and the behaviors that are common in high functioning anxiety. It's not to shame you. It's not to say that there's something wrong if you're binge watching TV shows or having drinks every now and then. It's just to say that, it's all about having balance and moderation. And that's something that I highly value and I think is super important. We all go through these phases where it's going to be harder to stick to healthy habits, or maybe there's more going on in our lives. We're going through a period of transition or change, or we're feeling unstable. So it's harder to have that routine and that predictability, and that's okay. And then we're going to have phases where it's easier to stick to our habits. We're going to have the routine and stability. So also keeping in mind that we all go through different seasons and phases of life, and keeping that in the back of your mind as well, and recognizing that what looks like healthy habits and what looks like self-care may change from season to season for you depending on where you are. So one reason why I really think it's difficult to stick to healthy habits is the difference between short-term and long-term gratification. So if we think about short-term gratification, that is that instant pleasure. That is that what's considered the hedonic treadmill. And the hedonism is going towards pleasure, where we go towards the things that are going to give us the short-term gratification, that boost of dopamine, like reaching for your phone and seeing a notification, or turning on the TV and getting to see the TV show that you enjoy, or reaching for a snack and getting that pleasure that comes from eating something you enjoy, et cetera, et cetera. So that short-term gratification is going to be really enticing and help you to feel good in the moment, versus the long-term gratification that can often come from healthy habits. Because when it comes to things like exercise or meditation, you're not necessarily going to see immediate outcomes or immediate benefits from it. Sure, it may feel good in the moment. I'm not saying that there's no positive things to come from it, but that difference is that you're reaching for more of a longer term goal and longer term gratification versus the short term gratification that comes from these quote unquote unhealthy habits or these things that are more instantly gratifying. So I think that can help to put things in perspective that, sometimes reaching for those healthy habits can feel like the harder thing to do in the moment because it's not as appetizing or appealing as doing the things that are not going to be as healthy for you. When you can recognize that, then you can see, first of all, are there things that you can do to make these healthy habits more enjoyable in the moment? Are there ways that you can try and stick to them longer? And I'm going to give you some specific tips for how to do that in just a bit. First, I want to talk about the sponsor for this episode, which is the Calm and Ambitious community. This is my monthly membership community for high functioning anxiety, and I have an entire training in the Calm and Ambitious community on creating healthy habits and routines, where I walk you through the process to help you to create healthy routines such as a morning routine, an evening routine, a transitioning back from vacation mode routine, and whatever other routines might be helpful for you to stick to and maintain those healthy habits so that you can feel better and so that you can be taking care of yourself. So if you want to learn more about the Calm and Ambitious community, you can go to calmandambitious.com or click on the link in the description to learn more. All right, so now my tips to actually help you stick with your healthy habits. First is to be gradual. So you're probably a high achiever, and I get it. You want to do all the things, and you probably want to do all the things right now. But that's not sustainable. When we try to do everything all at once, it's just going to result in potentially overwhelm. It's going to result in feeling disappointed when things don't work out the way that you might have anticipated, when it becomes too much because your schedule becomes busier or whatever other reasons might come up, the things that happen in day-to-day life. So that's when it's important to be gradual and to add maybe one, maybe two new things or habits at a time so that you can start to become used to them. And so you can become used to what it's like to start this new thing and adjust to it. Maybe even just adding one small thing for a shorter period of time. And then once this has become a habit, maybe lengthening that. For example, I've been getting back into the habit of meditation. It was kind of a up and down thing for me throughout the pandemic. And then recently I'm actually almost on a 150-day streak, which is pretty awesome. And it's not to brag or compare, but just to say that I haven't been to this point of being so consistent with meditation in such a long time. And I think one of the things that helped me is that I started with just telling myself, all right, I'm going to just do whatever I can a day. If it's 2 minutes, if it's 5 minutes, that's fine. I just want to get in some sort of meditation. Whereas in the past, I would have said, I need to do 10 minutes, I need to do 20 minutes, sometimes I was like, I'm going to do a 45-minute meditation, and that just wasn't sustainable. So then rather than doing shorter practices, I would just not do it at all. So I decided to start with, I'm just going to do a minimum of 2 minutes of meditation a day. I was doing that for a long time, and I was doing probably 5 minutes or less of meditation a day for the first 120 days. And then recently I just started upping it to 10 minutes a day because now I've gotten into the habit, I've gotten used to it, it's become a part of my day and my routine. And so it's easier for me to fit it in. And so sometimes it can be just gradually starting and moving things up in that way so that you can get used to just doing the thing rather than saying, I'm going to do an hour-long workout, and then when you don't have an hour, you don't do it at all. It's better to do something than to not do it at all. And so that's a great way to gradually work your way up to building a healthy habit. Another tip is to set clear and time-specific goals. So it's going to be more helpful to say, I'm going to do this workout program for 8 weeks rather than saying, I'm going to work out 4 days a week for the rest of my life. So that just seems so arduous and all right, so what am I actually working towards? So just because mentally that can seem overwhelming and it can seem like you're working towards what? You're working towards nowhere. Essentially, it can help to be more specific with your goals, be more clear, and be more time bounded so that you're able to have some clarity as to what you're working towards. And then once you do that 8-week program, all right, maybe you're going to start another one. And that's just one example, but trying to be more specific with what are those goals that you have for yourself when it comes to a healthy habit, and not getting into the place where you're kind of doing a crash diet or example and then like completely doing nothing, but creating habits that are more sustainable, that incorporate that gradual entry into them while also being specific with what it is that you're working towards. My next tip is habit stacking. So I believe I learned this from the book Atomic Habits. And so this is the concept of just taking a new habit and then stacking it with an old habit that you already have. So maybe it's like brushing your teeth and saying, okay, I want to practice more mindfulness. So when I brush my teeth every day, I'm going to practice being more mindful, and I'm going to practice tuning into my senses and my thoughts and incorporate those two things together. It could be that you're pairing every day after I get out of bed, I'm going to immediately go for a walk. Pairing a habit that already exists with a new one is going to help you to be able to stick to it because you are stacking these two things together with something that you're already doing. Another tip is to be self-compassionate. So I just had a whole podcast episode about this, but I want you to recognize that if you miss a day here or there, or if you miss more than a day, it's okay. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you need to start again from square one. It's just about picking up from where you left off. And the thing is, when you can be self-compassionate, you're better able to pick up from where you left off. Whereas when you're harsh and critical towards yourself, you're going to be like, oh man, I completely screwed this up. I failed. Now I need to start over, or I shouldn't have even started this in the first place. So that self-compassion is going to help you to stick with those habits more in the long term because you're being understanding and kind to yourself. My next tip is to celebrate your progress. So if you already have a daily gratitude practice, add it to that. Add that you are grateful that you did your healthy habit today. Celebrating the progress that you're making along the way is going to help you compound that momentum of focusing on the positive and give you that kind of snowball effect that's going to help you to want to continue to do it moving forward. My next tip is to identify your keystone habits. So these are the habits that once you add them in, it becomes easier to then start and stick to other healthy habits. So one example might be if you start exercising, then it just becomes easier to start eating healthy or getting enough sleep. So it's going to be different for everybody. I know that's something that happens for me. Once I start exercising more often, then it's just naturally becomes easier to eat healthy and to take care of my body in other ways. So identify, is there a keystone habit for you, this one thing that helps other positive and healthy things fall into place, and try to prioritize that habit so then you can see that ripple effect occur. And my next tip is to let go of comparison. So this is your journey and no one else's. So I want you to let go of comparisonitis when it comes to social media and seeing this other person's highlight reel of what they're doing in their life and their gym routine and, their meditation routine or whatever that might look like. Even letting go of comparing yourself to me and what I said about my meditation habit. And, also kind of letting go of comparing yourself to the photoshopped before and after photos that you see for advertising or whatever it might be for you that you struggle with when it comes to comparing yourself. What I think is important to focus on is comparing your present day self to your past self. And that is the only thing, because each and every person is in a different place in their life. They're on a different journey, and you're not seeing the entirety of what they're experiencing. And it's more important to focus on your own journey and your own path. So your action tip is to identify one healthy habit that you want to start or ramp up and gradually start doing it. Use the tips that I shared in this episode and let us know what that habit is, either in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or in our free Facebook community for high functioning anxiety, Calmly Coping, which you can find by going to calmlycoping.com/group. Let us know what your new habit is that you're starting so that we can cheer you on and help to keep you accountable. While you wait for next week's episode, I have other episodes about decreasing anxiety, adopting a healthy mindset, and managing your time and energy. So be sure to check out these episodes here. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and until next time, be calm.